Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. And with Call of Duty World War II Vanguard just around the corner, it seems at this point, many of us well know that it was not Scump's favourite Call of Duty game when the original was released way back in 2017. He certainly has a few words to say on what exactly he wants to see before making up his mind as to whether he is going to compete for the upcoming season. And tweet your thoughts in the comment section below. Like if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you were new as always, I greatly appreciate it. Already upside the channel, thank you very much indeed for doing that. First of all, this show methods, fun little back and forth between these two. Some guy Slacked here, he says, drops this on the tunnel as you can see with whatever type of filter this is going on right here. And the Slacked does a reply, hey guys, methods here, bench warm-up for the Trons Ultra. Kind of funny in a way, given that Slacked I suppose is the bench warm-up as well over at the Florida Mutineers side of things. But well, still, who knows what happens with these guys going forward, whether there's expansion, so many developments I'm sure to be had over the coming days and weeks and months as to whether there is going to be expansion, whether these teams will get in, what happens to these teams that aren't performing in the off-season. There's, well, I'm sure a lot of chaos coming down relatively soon. Thought I would mention this as well, because a couple of you guys were asking when I showed the clip the other day of like the Japanese Cellium, which is this guy's city of New York. I'm pretty sure I shared this clip as well from a couple of months ago now, back in March. But I couldn't really find where exactly you watch it if you guys want to tune in and watch the Japanese, basically Call of Duty type stuff. So at twitch.tv/PlayStation Japan, I'll leave this link down below if you guys want to find out, because it seems to be pretty entertaining stuff. The commentators, the players, seems to be a pretty good time. And well, good to see Call of Duty being played outside of the US, of course, because that's pretty much the Call of Duty World League, as it was called back in the day, now very much focused in the US. And that World Cup we were discussing the other day, maybe it would be nice to have a Japanese team there somewhere if the time does arrive. This some skies I thought was kind of interesting, right? Because I'm not sure what you guys use on your AK-74U, because I've been running muzzle, but apparently that's not the thing to do, because the Sky says that boy Neptune, that being someone I didn't really mention in my top 5 SMG players, but definitely worth a mention, especially as he's been performing as of late, no doubt, for the Mutineers. But that boy Neb has been running muzzle on his sub for weeks. Shaking my head, says Skies. So apparently Spetsnaz commentator is the way to go on that one, but maybe you guys have a different opinion down below. So, of course, look, World War II Vanguard is supposedly coming relatively soon. This slipstream thing is apparently going to be like, the nickname for it. They kind of have like a code word or something behind the scenes every single time they play the game. The internal alpha or whatever appeared on PlayStation Store's backend database as some sort of file. So, seems like it's coming relatively soon. Seems like at least on the vibe of this one, that it is going to be some sort of World War II style game. The original came out back in 2017, it must have been at this point. And, that was, of course, the year that OpTic Gaming won the World Championship, right? They just won Infinite Warfare, then they came into World War II. The dynasty had been completed in the sense like they'd been dominating for 3 years of Call of Duty, never won the World Championship in Advanced Warfare, Black Ops 3, finally got over the line in Infinite Warfare, and then you're expecting the dynasty, of course, Scump, Crimsix, Karma, and Formal to go on to even greater things in World War II, back on boots on the grounds. But it doesn't obviously work out like that. We'll look at those, look at their results here in just a couple of minutes' time. But these are some of the tweets that came out from Scump at the time, back in 2017. COD World War II revealed tomorrow. I don't know whether to be excited or nervous for it. And initially the response was from Scump, a lot of the other pros, that it was going to be a pretty good year, right? People generally enjoyed the idea that, okay, yeah, we're going back to boots on the ground, we're going back to a more traditional title, but of course this time we're not going back to anything, right? It's just the same old deal, where we've got another 4 versus 4 Call of Duty boots on the ground type game. Now, the World Championship winners of this year were, of course, the Evil Geniuses squad. Of it was Aches, it was Silly, it was Apathy, and it was Assault, and 3 of those guys are now on Los Angeles Guerrillas, and that was maybe the idea by LAG going into this season, that, okay, we'll just pick up a team that won the World Championship last time around. Now, it didn't really work out for them, but still, teams can definitely get better, teams can definitely get worse going into new titles. That's how it tends to be. And as Scump says, once he actually finally gets to play the game, like the alpha or the beta build or whatever, World War II is actually a fun game I'm excited for next year. But it didn't exactly work out along those lines, and this clip comes out from Scump just yesterday, because he's back on the streaming grind, it seems, at least for the near future. Scump wants to see a trailer and gameplay of Vanguard before signing a new contract at the end of the year, saying, look, I'd just like to see what's going on here, maybe even play the game or something, as usually the pros get to fly out early somewhere or other and get to play the game a little bit ahead of time. So he's playing league play with some of the other pros, a pretty good, deadly duo, a deadly quartet, let's just say, to actually run into here if you are playing league play. But yeah, Scump's saying, look, I'm not 100% convinced that I actually want to be competing on Vanguard next season if it's not a good game, like maybe like World War II was or whatever, because he doesn't seem convinced, definitely wants to see some evidence in how it's going to look from a trailer perspective, maybe from a gameplay perspective as well, maybe even play it a little bit on some sort of alpha build before making the call, because his contract is up at the end of this season.
I'm gonna have to see. Listen, my contract's up this year, at the end of this year. I'm gonna have to see what that shit looks like before I sign another one. Let me tell you something, all right? I'm gonna have to see that. All right? I'm gonna need a gameplay. I'm gonna need a trailer.
Switching sides.
Because I don't know about all that.
So if you guys have been around the Call of Duty scene for a while, you'll certainly know that this is probably Scump's worst year as a competitive player. Back in Black Ops 1, he was pretty good when he was like 15 years old, and then in Modern Warfare 3, he was considered one of the best. Black Ops 2, he was very solid as well, and then, you know, Black Ops 3, Advanced Warfare especially, Black Ops 3, Infinite Warfare at times was considered the best SMG in the game, if not just straight up the best player in the game in Advanced Warfare, Black Ops 3 at times, for example. But at World War 2, coming off that jetpack era, well, as he says right here, it was an off year for me, sorry brother. So these were their performances, right? If you guys are new to the scene, you can see, look, World War 2, they come off the victory at the World Championship just before this. They go into Dallas, they do pretty well, they get third, but the rest of the season was pretty woeful. This is, of course, you see like a couple of ones here, but this was stage 2 regular season when they came like second or something, so that didn't really count for a championship or anything like that. And this was Crimsix's also worst season as a competitor, right? This is like the only season probably that Crimsix hasn't won an event in. Of course, I suppose so far this season as well, but Crimsix always wins something or other. World War 2, that was not the case. Same with Scump. And of course, you can see the dynasty of Seattle breaks apart, right? Crimsix and Karma go their own ways. Karma effectively gets dropped onto the bench for the rest of the season. Crimsix stays on the team, of course, in the near future. Former was the one who went the separate ways. He went over to Luminosity Gaming. Crimsix stayed there, as of course we talked about in the documentary. And then Octane and Methods joined them. They didn't really want Methods. They wanted to get in, I think it was like Huke they were targeting, John they were targeting, Zuma they were targeting. Couldn't get any of those guys, had to sell for Methods. And then Crimsix effectively was the SMG duo to Scump, which was maybe never a recipe for success, but they actually were pretty good in the hard points, if you guys remember. So it wasn't like Scump was terrible at this game by any means, but just compared to his previous levels and compared to what championship success they'd had in previous seasons, World War 2 is a massive step down. As you can see at the top here, as soon as they go back to Black Ops 4, a more faster paced game, immediately they're winning championships again here at the Las Vegas Open. So it was very interesting to see how this one develops, but it wasn't just the performances in terms of results that weren't the greatest for Scump, it was statistically as well. Now, it wasn't the easiest game for an SMG, because you can see right here, this is a CODCompstats.com. If you guys would like to check this out, the entirety of the World War II season, pretty much all the top players were assault rifles, right? Look at this, you don't really tend to see this as much anymore. Shows that, you know, all the SMG players complaining about how good the ARs are, they certainly would have had a field day if they were competing, for example, in World War II, as some of them most certainly were. But as you can see, Methods, Slasher, Dashy, Octane, Formal, Assault, RCs, Dens, I mean, Crimsix was an AR for a time, then he was an SMG, Waskin, Parasite rated, so pretty much all of like the top 12 KDs in Respawn are all assault rifle players, right? Scump down here at a 1.05 in Respawn. That was pretty impressive for an SMG. You can see that, of course, Gunless was a bit of a flex player. Kenny was considered maybe the best SMG of that year, and he had a 1.07 over 244 maps. Scump not too far behind him, but in Search and Destroy, where we've seen Scump so good this year in Search and Destroy, he had a 0.99 back in World War II for the entire season. So certainly Scump didn't have the best time that year in terms of results, in terms of statistics as well. And it's a game that didn't really seem to suit him so well compared to the previous couple of titles. Now in Black Ops 4 he got pretty good. Of course we've seen so far this year he's been a very serviceable player indeed, especially in Search and Destroy. He's been incredibly good for OpTic Chicago so far this season, but still not in the ideal spot that they want to be in. And going back to a World War II style game, who knows how similar it's going to be, right? It's pretty much impossible to say going into World War II Vanguard whether that game is going to be incredibly similar to the original World War II, whether it's going to be very different indeed. Are the maps going to be the same? We've heard like London Doctors potentially coming back. I imagine they're going to make it so that it aligns to some degree at the very least with what they have over at the Warzone side of things, right? If that is the case, will it be kind of the same game? I don't really know. Will they try and have it on this? I think they're talking about like the Modern Warfare engine, so whatever that means for the movement and stuff is another question mark entirely. So definitely a lot of question marks right now, but Scump is saying, look, I'm not convinced I want to compete this year. My contract is up. I'm in an interesting spot, right? And the implications are being very highly considered as to what that could mean for OpTic and for the rest of the guys over there if Scump decides not to compete. But it kind of is a fear, right, that if Scump decides not to compete this year for whatever reason, let's say he doesn't like the look of the game, doesn't like how it plays or whatever, then well, whether he will ever return to competing is a massive question mark. Because let's say he doesn't compete for a season, goes on to stream and makes a ridiculous amount of money, then, you know, why would he return? I think a lot of players maybe found that it's very rare that you retire from COD at a very high level and actually make your grand return. Karma managed to do it, as you can see right here, effectively made his retirement for the last couple of months of World War II, came back and won the first championship of the year, but it's very rarely done, and I think should be a concern to a lot of people at the present time. To finish off on a more positive note, I suppose, this from the CODling, new talent is hot this year, showing off the top 5 recruits. I think we saw a graphic like this relatively recently, but this is more updated as of late. As you can see, I think Insight's certainly leading the way right now for Rookie of the Year. These are the top 5 at least in terms of how they've performed so far. Hydra right up there, Standy right up there as well, I believe, but Ultra and Insight, given they won an event, and Insight really did seem to turn that team around, most certainly isn't someone to mention for sure, but Neptune is on his way to doing so, given how he's performed in the latter half of this season. This also comes out from Chrome, because we talked yesterday about the top 5 SMG players at the present time. Who are the top assault rifle players right now? And this is, I think, somewhat harder like to say, because you've got the main ARs and then you've got the flexes. And generally the flexes pretty much use the AR all the time. Like you can look at Dashy, who's technically the flex or whatever, the second AR for OpTic Chicago. Same with Cellium right on Atlanta FaZe. When does he like ever use an SMG? Maybe on a very rare occasion or like an Apocalypse or something it's required. But apart from that, it's pretty much they're just an assault rifle player. So you can look at it in terms of the main ARs, which you can certainly do. Like Insight should be up there. Arcitys definitely deserves a mention. Cammy, I think, is someone that's come at the top of this list on a lot of different people, which I think is certainly understandably so. Clayster, I mean, there's so many obviously names here in the reply, so we can just scroll through real quick, as it's tough to say who should go where. Maybe Octane can sneak in there somewhere, but I think it's somewhat hard to justify so far this season. On the flex roll, like Cellium, Dashy, Cammy, I think Mac deserves a shot as of late, given how well he's been performing with the Krig. Awakening as well, most certainly. Narrowing it down to top 5 between the main and the second AR roles is pretty difficult to do, but well, certainly some players that you guys might well have some thoughts on in the comment section below. But intrigued to get your thoughts on all this in the comment section below, of course. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, I'd greatly appreciate a like on the video. Really upset the YouTube algorithm that you enjoyed this content. Other people like you may enjoy this content as well, and help grow the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you guys as always, take care, and I will see you next time.